Being in Sync 366 video series. Casual Sunday discussion, you know, energy absorption. And I think I'm going to start off with a question, a poll question. And the question is, do you absorb energy? Do you believe you absorb energy from others? Or I'm going to say environments. Let me see if I'm spelling that right. Okay, spelling correct, I think. Okay, so there is a poll question. Hey, Peter, add to the chat and then tag it, Peter. Can I put a comment in there? Let me see. I could start a poll, but I can't put a comment in there. I was going to see if I could do that. Hey, Eric, good to see you. I'm just letting people join here while I'm trying to figure out this what I can do and what I can't do. Okay, what is this? Okay, well, you know, you can leave a comment in the comment section. I can't even get to the comment section. It doesn't let me go to comments. Let me see. Community moderation. Yeah, it doesn't even let me comment. I have the chat filter for top messages, but it does not allow me to. Oh, well, I was going to try something. I was going to try and put it in caps. Hello, because then I can get to the questions much easier than trying to filter through, you know, some of the spam. Is the sound okay here? Thumbs up. I don't know if I told you guys that I was using those headsets for so long, but I noticed when I was wearing the headset even, I was getting ringing in my ears. And so I decided to get a mic, and that's where I'm at. All right, well, I'm going to let everybody kind of join in here on this Sunday. Have my tea and my coffee. How do you guys usually spend your Sundays? Before this, I usually had nothing planned ever on Sundays. That was my day that I just always had nothing planned. But since doing these video series, part of my morning is spent what is going to be most helpful for people to learn about their energy, about the natural laws, and the natural law that we're finishing up on right now is the law of cause and effect. And that is really your thoughts, your ideas, your beliefs. Those create vibrational frequencies, and there's always a cause and effect for everything, whether you realize it or not. And clearly, the topic today is about energy absorption. And do you believe that you absorb energy? And I get this topic comes up in various ways throughout the year. So I thought I would just hit it directly. And obviously, I have my own personal experience with energy absorption. Unfortunately, I would say I'm an expert in this because I used to do it. And I used to think because I knew I was absorbing energy that it was okay and that I could mitigate it. And that was just an egoic response to a weakness that needed to be addressed. So I am going to speak about my own personal experience. If that interests you, then you'll want to listen in. But I'm going to start with some general content about energy absorption. And I have, you know, I think 5 main points, and then 2 main, I think that's 1, 5, 6, and 2 main aspects that I believe that would be helpful in shifting your perceptions about absorbing energy. Nitin, it must be a hard thing to observe anger in such a profound way. Maybe you're projecting. Hey, Mick, good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, y'all, I'm going to go ahead. It's been about 5 minutes. You think I'm going to go ahead and get started with the content. I'd appreciate you all filling in on the survey. I'd be interested to see what people actually say about their perceptions of absorbing energy, and we shall begin. All right, y'all. The first thing about absorbing energy is this, that it is absolutely a vulnerability in your energy field. If you are absorbing energy, that means that you have a weakness or a vulnerability in your field. When you are healthy and strong and have strong inner congruence, you will not absorb any energy from outside of you that is not in alignment with the natural laws. That means that it's all light and vibrational and pure. Now, there are inorganic energies out there. You must be aware of that. And if your field is vulnerable, if you have a rip, a tear, a gaping hole, or just a vulnerability, a weakness in your field, maybe you feel insecure, maybe you feel tired or depleted, those would be indications of a weakness, okay? So how do you know? So the first thing that you're going to notice with energy absorption is you're going to feel yourself as depleted, meaning you feel exhausted when you're around people. You will feel that lack of inner strength, and that's often described as I'm depleted, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And people think it's just because they need to rest, but what they don't really understand is there's a reason that you're feeling depleted that hasn't been identified. And I will tell you from my own personal experience that when you are connected to your ego in a profound, deep way, and you are not aware that you're connected to your ego in that way, meaning you have made your ego part of your identity, it will be harder to discern your vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Another aspect of your physical challenges that you will have when you are feeling energy absorption is that you will have psychological difficulties. Well, what does that mean? Maybe you have a difficult time processing information. You might be slower at processing information. You might have periods of time where you just feel like you have to turn off your mind in order to reprieve. That is a lack of coping, right? And you think that, well, I'm just going to go rest so I can cope. You know, so that's an interesting dynamic to be aware of. And then the other thing is fearfulness. A lot of people who, hello, good, welcome y'all, welcome. Another aspect of physical challenges is fearfulness. And a lot of people that have a lot of fear, a lot of times they might know what they're afraid of. So for example, I'm afraid of snakes, which I'm not, but that people might say I'm afraid of snakes, or I'm afraid of spiders, or reptiles, or maybe I'm afraid of heights, or whatever. Whatever you are afraid of, just because you know you're afraid of it, that's not the answer. That's just an indication. Okay, so you don't want to be in fear because that is a vulnerability to absorbing energy. It's a weakness. Any fear is a weakness energetically. So you want to really understand. And when you have weaknesses, what will happen in your energy field is it's going to change how your cells operate, how your systems within your body are communicating. And when you have a lot of infiltration, and I will say like EMF or heavy metals or whatever thing that you think that you're absorbing, it will change how you operate cellularly in a way that's detrimental to health and wellness. So it will create create closed systems. And so one example of that is if you have a lot of heavy metals in your body, what will start to happen is you will only crave, sweets, things that you don't normally eat, things that you think are healthy, but they're not really that healthy, and you will crave them. And what will happen when you try to eat something, let's just say that's organic and should be good for you, your body will see that as inorganic. So it actually reverses how your body will interpret nutrients and nutrition. So it's very fascinating. This is my own personal experience with having identified significant heavy metals as an issue. And I knew that there was an issue, but the doctors weren't able to identify any issues at all. And why is that? Because they don't test for heavy metals. The vast majority of doctors do not test for heavy metals or parasites. What is at the root of all issues? Heavy metals and parasites. So you have to stop going to the places where they don't look. For answers. And I really wanted an answer to what my issue was. And it will also change when you have things like heavy metals in your system. It will also change your cellular knowing. So that intuitive knowingness that you get when you're in your body and you're like, I just know that gut reaction that many of you have experience with. When you have an infiltration of absorbed energy, your cellular knowing goes haywire, absolutely haywire. It's very challenging to be in your knowing when your systems are incongruent. So I just made some notes here. I'm just looking at my notes. It will also directly influence, any energy absorption will directly influence how your body amplifies, absorbs, stores, or transmits. And this directly impacts how you are in your health, your immunity. So the people think it's not a big deal to absorb energy. It's a pretty big deal. If you want to be healthy, you want to understand what's going on. Like just me going into a gym, like I went to a gym, I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, which by the way, that gym has now closed down. But this place was infiltrated with heavy, dark toxicities. And I could go into detail about what those were, but I don't think that the general public is really ready to hear all of that. But I will say that is an issue. So you want to understand how your body is directing and transmitting energy. And if you're absorbing energy, what it does is it weighs you down with what's called density. Density makes it very difficult for your body to flow, to have really good circulation. And a name that you all might be familiar with is inflammation. When you have a lot of energy absorbed within you that's inorganic, it will cause an inflammation. Heavy metals cause significant inflammation, and heavy metals will infiltrate how every cell is communicating, how your systems and organs are communicating, and how you are processing information cognitively, intuitively, and it is really detrimental to your health and well-being. Now, I know most of you aren't going to go get a heavy metal test. That's okay, you don't have to. That's what I do. I do heavy metal testing every year. I've been detoxing heavy metals for 6 years now, and I'm on a what do you call a regular system of purification, where I am now focused on really getting the nutrients in my body. Because when you get depleted as dramatically as I was, and I'm sure many of you are, you must change your lifestyle. You don't get to keep the same lifestyle and not absorb energy. It just doesn't work like that. You have to change how you are operating. And how do you change that? You must know where your strengths and your weaknesses are. And so today I want to talk about two main areas that you can really learn how to strengthen your energy field. If you believe that you are absorbing energy, and I think, there's just we almost have 100 votes in here. 50 votes. So you guys go and vote, and then I'll pull the thing. Hi, Tammy. Good to see you. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to pause before I get to the two main things that you need to do in order to change absorbing energy. Hold on. I'm going to be right back. As soon as I went live, my nose started to run. So excuse me. Okay. So, am I on? Yes. Okay. So, energy is going to be physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy, right? So, being in sync is about being in alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? So when you have weaknesses and vulnerabilities in your field, you will absorb energy most likely, or you will think that you're absorbing energy. Either way, all of your bodies work together. You want them to go core to core to core to core. If there is misalignment in any of the bodies, it will throw off all of the systems because they're supposed to be working in unification, okay? So if we already know that if you are in fear, that is a vulnerability. So if you know that you're afraid of something, let's just say you're afraid of flying, you want to know why you're afraid of flying. And so what I would offer to you is to go 5 deep, 5 whys deep. So why are you afraid of flying? You don't want to identify the fear itself, because then you make the fear valid. You want to really understand, why are you afraid? Because your fears are a weakness, and any weakness will be exploited energetically, whether you realize it or not. And it's not about whether you believe that this is happening, because it is happening. So your belief about this doesn't matter, okay? Because your beliefs oftentimes are based on false ideas. That's not to say that you're lying. That's not to say that you're wrong. It's just to say that humanity has beliefs that are based on falsity, okay? And so where those falsities happen doesn't really matter, as much as that you know that you have a fear. Whether it's a small fear or a big fear, doesn't matter, because a weakness is a weakness, period. So you want to have all of your weaknesses shored up, meaning you want to clear them. You want them to be whole and complete, so you're not operating from fear. So you want to know what your fears are, number 1. And number 2, you want to go 5 deep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why are you afraid? 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 You don't want to stop at 1 or 2. I'm afraid of snakes because I was a kid. And when I was a kid, there was a snake. Okay, so why? Say more. Why are you afraid? Not what happened, because it doesn't matter what story you're telling yourself about why you are afraid. You want to know the why. You want to get really clear and really specific about the why, and go 5 deep. And most people stop at the identification of a fear. Why? Why is it okay to be afraid? What are you really afraid of? So really go in and question yourself. If you can't go into inquiry with yourself, who are you going to go into inquiry to? Your husband, your partner, your family? You're going to question everybody else, but you're not going to question your own fears? You deserve to question your fears. They deserve to be seen totally, fully, and completely. Know why you're afraid 5 deep. Okay, that's one aspect that you can do to start to strengthen your field. And Mick, I want to talk about what you're saying there about the bubble, but I want to talk about it after I get to this next piece. Okay, so because I think how we, well, let me just say this, Mick, because I saw yours. If you are putting yourself in a bubble, and you're putting yourself in a bubble as because there's a fear, that defeats the purpose. You want to really know why you are doing what you're doing. And be clear on it, because if you're doing things based out of fear, it only strengthens that weakness and that vulnerability. Okay? So you want to do things like, oh, I'm going to put myself in a bubble so these energies can't get to me. That's fear-based. If I put myself in a bubble and it's because I'm strengthening my inner congruence, that's a different way of creating your bubble. How and why we are doing what we're doing is how cause and effect works. Those are the ripples. So we want to know why, okay? All right, so I hope this is helpful for you guys. Now I want to share with how you can personally identify your blind spots. Now, I've had other videos where I talk about blind spots and I've given some techniques, but today's a new technique and I want you to feel it out for yourself. So to identify your personal blind spots, you must first do this. Assess your own personal willingness to see. You have to be willing to see. And so I want you to do your own self-assessment. How willing am I to see my family and speak my truth to my family? If you have a 10 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 10. I could speak my truth in my family. I'm willing to see my family. That's a 10, okay? Then you can go on to the next spot. If you are anything less than a 10, let's just say, I'm willing to see the truth, my family, but speak the truth, oh no, that's like a 5, right? So a 5, that means you're not willing to see your blind spots, okay? That's your own assessment. I'm just giving you the gauge, okay? So, hey, Oliver and Peter, I'm so glad you're both here. So that's the gauge of willingness. And it's important for you to understand willingness, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm willing to see my blind spots. I want to grow. I want to do it on my own. But if you're really not willing to see, if you're really not willing to speak, you're not willing. And so you want to gauge your willingness. You're either all in or you're not. That's how you work with blind spots. If you're not all in on your blind spots, you're not really willing to see, and what's the point in moving any further? So how many of you, I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to ask another, I was hoping there would be 100, but we got 80 votes. Let's see. So 78% of you, holy cow, believe that you absorb energy. So this is for you. That is a lot of people. So I want to see this. Okay, I'm going to ask another poll question. Are you 100% willing to see and speak your truth to family? And I use this as a gauge for this one because, there's a lot of people that say they're willing, but are you willing to do it where it can really hurt? Meaning, you being fully your authentic self can really hurt your perceptions of yourself. So, and your family. So I'm curious, answer that question. Are you willing to speak your truth to your family? Because this is going to determine if you're really ready to identify blind spots. And I'd love to ask a question about blind spots, but this willingness to see and speak is huge. And it could change your entire life. So, I'm just going to take a moment to see, and I'm going to go see questions here. And then I'm going to go to blind spots, identifying the blind spots. I'm just curious. You all vote, and I'm going to go answer questions here and see. If you have questions, put them in the comments here. Mick is saying, hey, Kiana. Energy has to be handled with great care. Interesting. Well, energy is energy, right? So we should be aware always. Just see, if you have any questions, put them in capital. Just looking, anybody that says anything rude is getting deleted, okay? Mick, I'm going to build a bubble for myself, and I talked about that bubble, and I think bubbles based out of fear are detrimental to creating inner strength. It actually does the opposite, because if anything built out of fear attracts it. What's a defo, Mick? I don't know what that is. Preet, I do energy psychology, physical, mental, emotional alignment with my clients. I do that all day, every day. Hey, Tony, good to see you here. Love it. London, welcome. Okay. Oh, Oliver is saying, have you spoken your truth to your family? If so, how did it go? Can you give us your experience of doing this? I've been doing this since I was a little girl. I always spoke my truth to my family and didn't go very well with them. So let me answer your question. So yes, I do speak my truth with my family, with anybody, pretty much. I speak my truth. I try my best to align totally, fully, and completely to my heart. But I will say, even when I was in my ego, I would speak what I perceived as my truth. As misaligned as it might have been back then, I did my best to always be in alignment with my truth. That means if I didn't agree with something, I would not go into agreement with it. The law of consent and authority is huge with energy, and I've always known that, but I didn't know it completely like I know it today. But I will say the law of cause and effect really is something that I have a conscious awareness of, and if we are silencing our truth, our self in and around our family, that's going to show that we're not willing. And can you give us the experience of what it was like to do this? Well, for me, I mean, I will say this. It has always been more important for me to be in alignment than to have people like me. I have known my whole life that people like who they like and they dislike who they dislike. And it really has nothing to do with the people as much as it has to do with the willingness of people to open their heart. So I've had a knowingness of that. So I've never really invested a lot of energy or time into what people think about me. And even as I grew up and I went into my career and I was doing conflict management with the military, and I knew then, I wasn't getting paid to have people to like me. I was getting paid to get results. And I knew that my obligation was to the organization to deliver results. And so I was never invested in people liking me. I would like it if I had people that like me, but I know that my job is such that people don't like people who speak truth. That's just, oftentimes people are offended by it. I even told you all about a story with a friend where I spoke my truth, my opinion about something that they asked about. And, that's just, she didn't like what I had to say. And that's okay. But because I don't care what she thinks about my opinion. And I do care that if we're going to be friends, that we can have our own opinions. And I think with family, if your answer to that question, how am I willing to see and speak my truth with my family? If your answer to that is no, well then, identifying your blind spots isn't going to be very productive for you. Okay? Did I answer that question? How did that go? Can you give us your experience of what it was like to do that? I would say this other thing about speaking your truth. I have always believed and seen that when people are willing to have difficult conversations, that can bring people together and closer and create more meaning. And so I always have focused on what could come from a challenging conversation rather than whether they like me or not. Because I think by and large, what comes from a difficult conversation with family and or others is meaning and understanding and growth. And that to me is very important. So that's something that I value. My beautiful soft little thing, how do I avoid accumulating negative energy in my body? I talked about that, but this thing about identifying blind spots is going to help. So beautiful, my beautiful soft little thing. That's such a long answer, a long name, but I will say, how did you answer that question? Are you willing to speak your truth? Because if you're not willing to speak your truth, if you're not willing to see, the willingness to see and speak, those go hand in hand. They're tied together. And I will give you some other tips on how to avoid accumulating negative energy. But the first one is to know your fears. I already talked about that one. Rana is saying, watch out for negative energy transfer. Well, that sounds like a fear. So can you say more about what you are saying there? Negative energy transfer. What do you mean? Because all energy is a resonance. So that means you have to be in agreement or vibration in order for it to be transferred and absorbed. Otherwise, it will not stick. But if you're absorbing, that means it's sticking. It's staying in your field. So you want to know why. What am I afraid of? Rana, I think you should say more about what your question is here. Can people steal your energy, Melvin is asking. And Melvin, that is called energy siphoning. And people can do that. And also AI can do that. Situations can do that. Mental looping can do that. So yes, your energy can be siphoned in many different ways. That's why it's so important for you to have awareness. And I do believe I have a topic on here in this series called energy siphoning. I'm just looking to see. Okay, can you tell me how I can get into your profession? Rona, okay. I'm always doing what you do. I'd like to get paid for it. Interesting. Well, let me see what the poll is and I'll get back to that. Because I don't know, how can I tell you to get into my profession? I don't even know how to answer that. How can you get... So, and by the way, I have people say they do what I do all the time, but you've never worked with me, so you don't even know what I do. So I always think that's interesting when people say they do what I do when they have no idea what I do, because they've never experienced it. They think they know. I get asked all the time. So I would like to know how you know what that I'm doing without experiencing it. That's number one. Number two, you want to get paid for what? So it's an interesting question. Okay, Mick is saying, me and my brother would fight because our truths were different. Yes, but isn't that the beautiful thing about us, is that we can have an experience of a situation together and have different experiences. That's our unique perspective. That is also how we learn differently. But the fact that you two were not in acceptance of one another's truth, that's not very unusual with brothers and sisters and families and mothers and daughters. It's very typical that we're not in acceptance of other people's truths. Yeah, I can tell you, my sister, my brother, and I, we rarely agreed. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Is their truth more important than mine? Is yours more important than your brother's? Aren't truths equally important depending on the soul journey? I think it's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and close this jar. I'm going to see where we are. Are you willing? Only 64% of you are saying that you're willing to see the truth and speak it to your family. So that means that the next steps are not for more than half of you in here. So to know how to identify a blind spot without having the willingness to see and to speak what it is that you are seeing means that you won't be able to see your blind spot. So this might be a fruitless effort for half of you in here, more than half of you, because I will say I wouldn't recommend half of you even doing this exercise. But for those of you who are in the small majority that are willing to speak and see the truth, I have 2 more steps for you. Okay, because there are a small majority, and I would say I'm in the 1 percentile of people willing to speak and see the truth. And even I sometimes have a difficult time with what I see, and this doesn't mean that you like what you see, and I think people think that if you're willing to see the truth that you like it too. It's not about a judgment. It's not about liking what you see or not liking it. It's about your willingness. You see, just having willingness is halfway there, but your lack of willingness shows that you're playing life in a very limited way, that you only want to see those things that are comfortable for you to see. Hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So here we go. For those of you who are in the minority, you are willing to see, okay? You know you're willing to speak your truth. So here's step number 2. I want you to write down all those things that you have attachments to. So that might even be like something like health insurance. It seems silly, but it's really important. Like, I can't live my life without health insurance. That's an attachment. Attachments to people, places, jobs, money. Attachment to how. Write down all the ways and aspects in which you have attachments. So let's just say say you're attached to your husband. That's an attachment. Now, many people think that those are okay to have those attachments. In the natural laws, that does not allow for flow, okay? Any attachment is not a good thing. That will change how you flow energetically. So you always want to be a non-attachment. That doesn't mean you don't love somebody. It just means that you are not attached to the outcome, okay? So write down all the attachments you have: people, places, jobs, money, and how things get done. Write them all down. And you might have a lot of attachments. You might have attachments to, if somebody calls you and if you call somebody and they don't text you back, you might have an attachment to them not responding to you in what you believe as an appropriate time. You might have attachment to rules, unspoken rules that you haven't even given voice to, but that if you might have attachment to obligations, like that you feel obligated to do things for certain people because they're family, and that would be an attachment. Obligations are also attachments. You want to be a non-attachment. So write down all your attachments. Why do you want to write down all your attachments? Because you want to have conscious observation of what you are so tethered to. Because whatever you are attached to is a tentacle that is holding you back energetically, okay? When I say holding you back, I will also say it's like a siphon. It's like a block. It is keeping you from being in circulation and flow within yourself and in with life, right? So you want to write down all of your attachments, okay? Okay. Now the tough part. This is where most people struggle, but you guys are smarter than the average folk, so I'm just going to go ahead and give you some hard things to do. You want to write down the beliefs that you have that tell you that being attached to X, let's just say being attached to health insurance, keeps you in alignment. Write down the beliefs that you have that thinks that it's okay to be attached to these things, and write down what those beliefs are. Why do you want to know what your beliefs are? Because you want to know what's causing you to do and behave the way that you are. Okay? That is how you identify your blind spots. Your blind spots are coming from your beliefs. That's the causation, okay? We're going to the root cause. Now, for the 50% of you who are unwilling to speak and see your truth of your family, you want to know, why the hell am I like that? Why am I okay being weak? Why am I okay abdicating my personal power? Why am I okay with not even being willing to dive 100% into live life fully? Why? Why? Okay, let me see. Questions. Can you tell me how I can get into your oh, wait, I already asked for that. Answered that one. Okay, Oliver's saying, thank you for sharing that. What happens when two people speak their truth, but they don't align and nothing aligns? Well, is speaking your truth about alignment with others, or is it about you speaking your truth? So maybe you are speaking your truth hoping that you will align, but maybe what you find when you speak your truth is that you're misaligned. How would you know how could you operate differently knowing that there's not an alignment there? What does that mean to you to have people in your life who are not in alignment with what you believe to be your truth? Does that mean something to you? Do you need people to believe what you believe in order to be friends? I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I have friends that don't believe what I believe. I'm okay with them not believing what I believe. I think I'm in the minority. You know, a lot of people don't think energy is real, except energy is everything. So, I mean, how do you work with people who don't believe that energy is real? because they will have an experience of energy. And once people have an experience of energy running in a particular way, they will change how they believe, because beliefs are not set in stone. They can be changed with conscious awareness. So what I will say is it's really important to know your values, Oliver, because oftentimes what we think are our friends, they're not going to align with our values. And that might change how the relationship evolves. And that's important to know. Ranting Gamer says, any advice to overcome the passing away of a best friend? I am so sorry for your loss, Ranting Gamer. Best friends are, they change who we are and how we operate. They open our hearts and our lives. So I'm sorry that you are having this experience we call grief. Grief is a great way to use as a pivotal point in your life to leverage into becoming more of who you were meant to be. So I would say, number one, what are you doing to honor your relationship and friendship with that person? Do something to honor the relationship. It could be something very simple or it could be something very complex. Do what resonates for you. Number one. Number two, determine one way that you are going to be different because of this relationship, in a way that makes you a better person, a better human. Those two things should help you begin to integrate pain into progress. I hope that's helpful. We are talking about energy absorption today, Mariah. Well, my thoughts on ADHD. Number one, if you've actually been diagnosed, I would say most people who have been diagnosed as ADHD, they tend to make those diagnoses part of their identity. So the first thing I would recommend, Jay-Z, is to re-identify yourself apart from this diagnosis. You are not a diagnosis. You are much more than any doctor could ever say. So disidentify with a diagnosis. Do not make it part of your identity. That's number one. Number two, I would look at the foods that you are consuming. Down. Ra agrees. You got to look at the foods that you're consuming. The foods that you are consuming will directly influence how your mind and body are communicating. So I would look at the foods and food sensitivities. The other thing I would say, Jay-Z, is if you're willing to do a heavy metal test using your hair, that would be most helpful, because I would suspect there's some detoxing that needs to be done. Okay? Hey, Salvo! Good to see you, my friend. I'm so happy to see you again today. Mick is saying Kiana was just born to do what she does, I believe. Mick, indeed, aren't we all born to be who we are? And yet we are always in a constant state of becoming. If we are evolving, we are always growing and changing. I tell you, you could probably go back to the videos in the beginning and see how I am today. And they're very different. And what I will say is one of my values is about digging deep. And there was one video a couple weeks ago, maybe months ago, that I got off, and I was just sitting processing the live that we had here and the discussions, and I realized I wasn't digging deep enough on these videos, and I want to honor fully my values and digging deep into who I am and what I believe and what I understand about energy. It needs to be shared. And I have only shared a little piece of the heavy metal issue, but if you have heavy metals in your body, It will actually change the frequencies in which you can vibrate consciously. Now that's a freaking problem, y'all. That is a problem because you will be limited and locked into lower frequencies because you have ingested heavy metals. And most people don't understand how they have heavy metals. How is what you will learn on the discovery. Okay. Salvo is saying, and I pick and choose who I tell certain things to. I think people need a certain level of understanding. Salvo, that sounds like a protection, right? That sounds like a way of protecting yourself because you are determining that people are incapable of understanding your aptitude. So then you play small in order to stay around them. But what if you didn't play small at all and you just allowed it to unfold? Whether they are capable of understanding is none of your business, right? It is none of your business if people understand your truth. What is important is that you are in alignment with your truth, that you are willing to see. I'm not telling y'all to go speak to your family, but I'm using that as a barometer for your willingness to see blind spots. Because if you're not willing to see and speak, then you're really not going to be willing to see blind spots. And to see blind spots, you must have 100% all in, like you want to see it all, right? And it's gonna not be pretty. It's okay to see it all because not everything is what you think it is. So understand that what you're doing is keeping you smaller, Salvo, and we don't want that. We want you to be fully in alignment with who you are meant to be all the time. And if people can't handle the truth, one of my favorite lines is, "You can't handle the truth," by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. That's my favorite all-time movie lines because a lot of people can't. And when you speak truth, it changes the relationship. But it changes the relationship to make it more real. This does not mean they have to agree with your truth. We can agree to disagree. We can have different truths. We're going to have different truths dependent on our willingness to look at ourselves, right? So somebody who's going to go and look at what they're attached to. I'm attached to the things that my family told me were true. I'm attached to what I know to be real. Those are real attachments. And if you have those attachments, that's going to really change how you're able to see blind spots. Rona is saying, what I mean is when you speak your truth to another person, can transfer negative energy to you because they don't understand. Absolutely not. I don't believe that to be true at all, Rona. So I would say no, that is not true. You being in your truth does not transfer energy to them or from them. But what it does do is it changes the frequency in which you vibrate. So you may not resonate the same way with people when you're in your truth. That's the truth. But you'll be more in alignment. Okay. Rona, you don't need to say sorry. I appreciate you being here. You're saying things that I've heard my entire life. People have always said, I do what you do. Can you explain to me what you do? Can you explain how you do what you do? And I would tell other coaches, they call themselves coaches now, and I always called myself a consultant, but they call themselves coaches, and then they would try to replicate what I do, but they can't do it because they're in their head. I don't work from my head. I work from my heart. I do work. I mean, the two are married, but you know what I mean. It's okay, Rona. You're welcome here. The essence of what you're saying is being communicated. Salva, I know you're not saying they're stupid. You don't, though. Okay, let me read what you're saying so people can hear. Salvo's saying, I'm not saying that they're stupid, just that you need to be able to experience certain things in order to understand it. And I think that's an assumption. This is a friendly, different opinion, Salvo. I'm not saying you're wrong, but it does sound like you're assuming that in order for people to understand, they have to have an experience of. And I don't think that's true, because when you are sharing things from your heart, they can hear you differently than when you're trying to explain things. And what I will say is most people don't like to have things explained from the mind. They want to feel it from your heart. And when you're speaking from your heart, it changes how they hear what you're saying. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think of an example of how I can share that. So I'll use the experience of ayahuasca. Okay, so I have had many ceremonies with ayahuasca many years ago, and I will say that ayahuasca is a medicine. It's a plant medicine. Some people think it's a hallucinogen, but it is a sacred plant medicine. And when I speak about ayahuasca, it changes the frequency. Why? Because there is cellular memory within me. Now, does everybody need to have the ingestion of the medicine in order to experience it? Absolutely not, because I am activated with the medicine. It's in my cellular memory. That goes through my frequency and into a resonance to the person who is receiving the information. It doesn't mean that they need to experience the same thing I did. Hell, I would not wish that experience on anybody. And I would never tell anybody to go have an ayahuasca experience. I think the people that are called to the medicine need the medicine. And there are some people that are called to they want to have a hallucinogenic experience. That is not the purpose of the medicine. And so you must really have intention, strong intention for what you're doing, because there are ramifications, the law of cause and effect. When your ideas, thoughts, and intentions and behaviors are causing a ripple. Now, I would say my experience with ayahuasca was absolutely, unequivocally life-changing. And because it was life-changing, I wouldn't recommend that for everybody. I would say that's a hard way to go get your life changed. That is not an easy way to go. There are many other easier ways to go than what I chose. But I chose because I was called. I was curious, and I couldn't get it out. Like, I knew I had to go. And I did things I would never do now to go to have the experience that I had. Like, I felt called to work with this particular shaman. I didn't want to do the medicine with anybody else. I wanted to work with this one guy. That's how strong I felt pulled. And let me tell you, this man, he was the most gifted medicine man I have ever experienced in my life. I have never met another human with the capacity to do what he did. And I feel, in my memory of him, and this is going back probably over 20 years ago, you can see I get emotional about it, because the strength of his inner spirit was so strong. His knowledge, his wisdom, his presence, and he was a tiny man, but he was so powerful. And so I would say there are many ways in which people can experience you. But when you speak from your heart, Salvo, it changes how the messages are received. So that's what I would say is the practice for all of us here willing. There's 50 of us here in this right now. It's like, how can you speak your truth? From your heart. That's where your truth lies. It's not in your mind. Mr. Cod plays this live stream is about energy absorption, and I'm just doing Q&A now. And we're almost at an hour, so I want to speed it up here. Salvo, you have a lot of reasons. Salvo, it depends on the circumstances, like how or where you experienced it from, which gives you a different understanding of the situation. Potentially. Again, this aspect of identifying your blind spots is really about, the question is really about your willingness. And it seems like you have a lot of qualifications for your willingness, and I don't think that is unique to anybody else here. But for me, I'm a 10 out of 10, no matter what the circumstances are. Like, I'm 100% willing to speak my truth and to be in alignment, regardless of the circumstances or the situation. Obviously, I'm not going to spew my truth to everybody. There is a timing. I understand what you're saying. But the willingness is where I'm measuring here. Because if we're willing to see and speak our truth, that means we're willing to see our blind spots. That's all that question was intended to do. I'm not telling you to go talk to your family. Hey, Red Hunter, good to see you. Yes, Renzi is saying health insurance only by God. There's a lot of fears around health insurance, hospitalizations, you name it. These people that want to have health insurance so intensely, and yet they're afraid to go to the hospital. What is that telling you? Where is the inner conflicts? We must be willing to see. And I say there is attachment to God, and that is not healthy, Renzi. Not healthy. You want to have non-attachment. You don't want to have God attachment or God ego. And trust me, there is ego within their God attachments. I've witnessed it, and it's not pleasant. It's just as, it's a thing. Hunter, how do I stop getting attached to people? Well, you have to identify who you're attached to. Identify all the people you're attached to, all the situations you're attached to. Identify all attachments. And then go to what is the belief that is behind that attachment. Why do you need to be attached to these people to have alignment? Because what you're going to understand is that your beliefs are what's the problem here, not the attachment. The attachment is simply a behavior that's coming from a belief. I feel obligated to help people even when they are wrong. Well, that's a judgment, and obligation is not a healthy behavior. It brings you out of alignment to your truth, and it brings you into judgments, which you so beautifully articulated here, Brenda. So thank you for that. Charlie Bean is in agreement with you, Brenda. Every time I get a scam call, I go along with it because I feel obligated to help. Oh no, Charlie, that is an energy siphoning. Really do this blind spot and write down all the attachments you have, and then go find the beliefs that's driving that, Charlie. Yes, Brenda, I love your awareness here. She's saying, sorry, Charlie, we have something to work on here, and I hope that we can overcome it. Brenda and Charlie, you 100% can overcome any fears that you have. Salvo is saying, oh, so good to have you here, Salvo. I just want you to know I appreciate you. Even though I may not agree, I appreciate you. Okay, let me see what you're saying here. Speaking the truth and getting denied is what tells me to not waste my time with certain people that are unwilling to listen. I can't say that you're wrong there, Salvo. I don't see anything wrong with what you're saying, except for that you're saying that getting denied by these people is causing you to shut down. That's the only thing that I'm not in agreement with, because you should be able to be your 100% authentic self Always. That's how you get alignment, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And if you want to have full alignment, as I'm sure you do because you're on here, you know, you don't need them to agree with you. You can agree to disagree. That's okay. Agree to disagree. And if they're unwilling to listen, that will tell you what they are in alignment with, okay? And is that something that you value? Know your values, Salvo. I would really want to know, what are your top 5 values? And if it's about being in truth, then those people would not be in alignment with your values. So naturally, the time that you spend with them would be different and limited. You're welcome, Oliver. Thank you for helping out here and being here and giving a great question. Okay, Dr. Prazan is here again. If getting detachment from yourself, from those material world, then only you can be able to know your inside and your inside mind. Well, I'm not talking about getting detachment from yourself. I'm talking about getting alignment. Everything is about getting in alignment with yourself. And if you have attachment, it's going to pull you out of alignment, you see. So think physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. You want them all to be congruent and aligned. If you have attachment, let's just say you have an attachment to your marriage, that's going to pull you out of physical, mental, and emotional alignment, and even spiritual alignment. Just that one attachment. You don't want to have any attachment. You want to have a marriage that is free, meaning untethered, that allows you both to grow and expand in love. Love should not be based on an attachment or a condition. Certainly, you want it to be based on values. What is the best way to manipulate a woman to submit to my control? Well, Roman, I can promise you that you are being manipulated energetically. To even write a question like that tells me that you are under what's called mind control. And you think you're trying to manipulate women, but you are being manipulated, because only a man who's being manipulated would say something like that. So what I would say is that your field is weak and vulnerable, and your mind has been infiltrated by parasites. So I would look at shifting that for your own health and well-being. Not to mention how you treat other people is directly connected to how you believe about yourself. But since you are disconnected from your soul, you would think something crazy like that. And so this is a great lesson for everybody here. So thank you for saying that, Roman, is that anybody that's manipulating others to have control, whether it's a woman, children, a partner, these are people that have been infiltrated. Don't get it twisted. Infiltration happens in many ways. Mind control is an issue. MK Ultra, go look up all these things. It is an issue, and Roman has an issue. So thank you for being here and sharing that. Let's see. My beautiful, soft little thing. I speak my truth. People seem to be avoiding me. And so I end up having 1 or 2 friends. And that one person is willing to put up with me. Well, I lose a relation because of my authenticity. Well, that's one way of looking at it. It could just be that you are in alignment with different people, and we outgrow them. We outgrow people. And so people shift and change. It's like when you were a little kid, you might have more, it was a thing to have more friends, and you were part of a group, and then you grow up and you realize it's more important to have meaningful relationships than have a lot of people around. Depends what you value. So beautiful thing, I would say, look at what you value. How do I get rid of these heavy metals? Detox. Hey, Gur, good to see you here. I have a smoothie for life on here. that will help get rid of heavy metals. But I would say it's significantly helpful to get tested. So you have to do a hair analysis. So you want to look for a heavy metal hair analysis. You can get them online, have it shipped to your house, and then you send it in. They do it at their lab. And I will say doctor's data, DRS data, is the best one that I have found. And you want to get that tested, send it in. They'll send you what your heavy metals are, and then the work begins. The work begins to detox. And there are many paths to detox. I chose Ayurvedic because it was the only one that worked. Because I measured so much, I realized it was the only thing that actually worked. Roman, you need to look at your mental capacities. They are infiltrated. You need to get stronger physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You need to learn about mind control, Roman, because your approach is not yours. It is being installed. So you must look at and learn how you have been infiltrated. You don't have just weaknesses and vulnerabilities. You have a gaping aspect in your field that is detrimental to your health and your wellness. I promise you. I shouldn't say I promise you. I would say I strongly encourage you to look at your life and look at what you're doing. Mick, I just told you, but I posted one in the heavy metal. So the secret illness video, I believe I posted the link there. And also, if I didn't put it in the smoothie for life, that is the smoothie that I used for a year and a half that significantly, like in double digits, got rid of heavy metals. Now, I know from people who have messaged me from all over the world who have tried that smoothie, they have found that it's difficult to find some of the ingredients, specifically dandelions. But there, I think I posted a link of where you can get a powder form of that. Okay, Jamie, I have opinions. We all have opinions, and we all see, and we see you. Okay, Jamie. Stormy weather. What are your thoughts on energy transfer to people that you do not know personally but know of? First of all, energy has to be, there must be agreement. So the transfer doesn't happen unless you are in alignment with that frequency. Okay? So let me see if I can. So let me try this. Stormy weather. If you have this relationship of this person and you're thinking of them, why would you want to transfer energy to somebody without their conscious awareness? That's number one. Number two, energy is only going to be, inorganic energy will only be transferred if you have a vulnerability and a weakness and a resonance with it. So I hope that helps. I think that answers your question. Mick, you like that movie? That's one of mine too. Thanks for aligning with that. I just love that line. And Jack Nicholson is really good. I'm not much of a movie goer, but that's one movie that I like that whole court scene. Because it really is about how we deny truths. And when somebody tries to speak out against the system. I mean, there's so many levels in that movie. They get shut down. Ego, self-esteem can cause all kinds of relationship issues. Well, ego imbalanced is different than self-esteem. So those are two different aspects. But if you have an imbalanced ego, chances are you have a lower sense of self, right? So I think that's what you're saying. When they can try to understand together, nothing can come between them. Their relationship will become more stronger. Not sure I understand completely what you're saying there. Hola, Nelson, ¿cómo estás? What is the topic? The theme of this topic is energy absorption. Rona is saying, I know what you mean and I appreciate your response. Thank you for being you. Thank you, Rona. Thanks for being here. By the way, if you're new here and this topic interests you, I've been doing this series, Being in Sync 366 video series every day this year. I usually come on between 12 and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And every day is a different topic. And put your notifications on if you're new. Salvo is saying, yeah, but experience, touch, and sight, smell all contribute to the experience. How can someone understand the atmosphere of your story without experiencing that situation? You know, Salvo, everybody can have a different experience and be in the same place. That's what Mick was saying about him and his brother. They have different truths. It's okay. And you might be talking about something specific, I'm not sure. My cousin Joel was adopted out of the family. For a while, you've said this before. Dr. Person says, Kiana, you're skipping comments. Even try to recognize comes here frequently. Dr. Person, I'm trying to get to all the questions because I'm going over an hour, and I know people don't like to watch the replay for a long time. So I'm trying to get to all the questions. Stormy Weather says, thank you for your indirectly answering my question, whether or not you saw my question. Oh, okay, good, Stormy. I thought I saw it. Please, if you have questions, put them in caps so I can see it. I've been saying it's not about the mind, that people should open their hearts because it's the truth. I agree with you, Miguel. I can't even say that name. But what I will say is that the mind is an aspect that infiltrates how people are able to connect to their heart and be in alignment with truth. Because people don't understand that they have a weak mind, they become infiltrated. Yes, God, ego. Oh, okay. Yes, that's attachment to God. We're not supposed to be in attachment at all. That is how flow is. We want to be in non-attachment to everything. That doesn't mean you can't believe in God. It's that you don't want to go into God ego. You don't want to have attachment to God. You could believe fully in God, but not have attachment to God. It's different. I don't know what that means. I want to tap the screen like I'm on a TikTok. Does that mean you want to go away? By the way, take anything that resonates with you and leave the rest behind. Am I a lawyer? Far from it. I'm just looking for questions. How do okay, this guy keeps on posting these things about control. I think I've answered that question enough. Did I miss Sailor's Life? Hey, good to see you. What's a good sailing term? May the winds be in alignment with your sails. I can't remember. I have some good sailor quotes, but I worked with the Navy for so long, I can't remember any of them. Anyways, I'm sorry. I digress. Okay. Salvo's saying, no, I understand. Maybe I'm just looking at it from a different way. I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just talking from my thoughts. Salvo, what I was saying about the family was really to just gauge your willingness. And you're saying you're getting really analytical, which I appreciate because I'm analytical. But it's just really to gauge your willingness on how willing you are to look at your blind spots. So if you're willing to speak your truth to your family and see the truth, then you're really going to see your blind spots. That means you're open. That means you are an open vessel, you have an open heart, that you're willing to see your blind spots. Then you want to go down and write down your attachments, people, places, things, situations, ideas, organizations, the hows. You want to write down all your attachments. That question was simply just a gauge of how you can do that. And then you want to go and find the beliefs that are driving those attachments, and you want to unattach, untether from those beliefs. It's a creative way of getting you to look at what you believe. Toxic boogie. Is this an advice line? No, it's not. We're talking about energy absorption. I don't think it's an advice line. We're just chatting here. Hey, Matthew Hill, good to see you. Yes, Salvo, know your values. My beautiful, soft little thing. Everybody on here should be able to list your top 5 values and know if you are in alignment with them. How many of you are operating out of alignment with your values? That's incongruent. The whole reason why you have your values is to see, am I in alignment with my values with everything, every person, every situation? And if not, why not? Okay, Oliver is asking, Sailor's Life, are you in the North Sea today? We want to know where you are at. I actually went to go look last night where the North Sea was. Like, where is that by? Another person who's in disagreement with you on what's most balanced with your heart only means their heart isn't in alignment with yours. It could mean that. Couldn't a disagreement just mean that you can accept them fully for who they are? That it doesn't have to mean that you're in misalignment, but that you can be in acceptance? Isn't that one of the laws of building your spiritual house? To be in kindness and love and compassion and support and acceptance of others? Yes, 100%. All those aspects are about being in alignment with the natural laws. None of it says that you have to agree with them. There's not about agreement. It's about awareness. Toby likes my hair. Well, thank you. Thank you. I was going to cut it, and then I was like, should I let it grow? Thank you, Toby. Okay, Salvo, thank you for your live talks. I really do love conversing with you and learning your teachings. I always see things from another angle now, and I have progressed spiritually from these talks. Well, thank you so much, Salvo. That's a beautiful compliment to you and your willingness to grow, and to me doing these, because I came on here and nobody was watching my lives for the first half of the year, and then I get to meet people like you from all over the world, and Sailor Life in the middle of the ocean, and Peter in Canada, and you guys are awesome. Somebody is saying, aha, Miguel, Minel? I don't know how to say your name. I'm just going to say ah. Ah is saying baking soda and water removes heavy metals. I would say that you have to do what kind of detox resonates with you, because when I was researching heavy metal detox, there were natural paths like you're suggesting that would have been highly dangerous for what I had. So that's why it's important to understand what you're contending with, and the level of which you're contending it is going to show the reactivity that you might have in your body. So you definitely want to do what resonates for you. And what works for one might not work for another. So you got to really feel into it. I could not have done the baking soda aspect. It would have been, I probably would have been hospitalized. I couldn't have done the oil one. I probably would have been hospitalized. That's how reactive I was. Hey, Star Power, thank you. If you're new here and you like what we're talking about, I do this every day, not usually this long, but it's a Sunday. I'm just trying to get through all the questions. Every day is a different topic. What is Osh saying? XYZ, XYZ, no. Inflation is returning to pre-pandemic levels. I don't know what that means. Star Power, how can I absorb the right energy around me? Beautiful question, Star Power. It's not about right or wrong, it's about awareness. So right and wrong, good or bad is all awareness, right? Those are judgments. You don't want to go into judgment about energy because energy is just energy. It's our judgments that makes it one way or another. There are energies that lift you up and align you to higher levels of consciousness, and there are energies that lock you into lower frequencies. I told you today, I gave two big ways in which you can really change your absorption. Number one, you want to understand that your weaknesses and vulnerabilities are what causes you to absorb. So how do you know that you have weaknesses? You will get it from your physical feelings, right? You will know, I feel depleted, I have psychological difficulties, I maybe have anxiety, you have a lot of fears. Okay, the first test is to identify what your fears are and 5 reasons why you're afraid of that. Like why? Why are you, so you know what the fear is, why? Why are you afraid? You want to answer that question. The second way to address the weaknesses and vulnerabilities in your field is to identify your blind spots. Okay. Gur is saying, I think Ronan is trying to be proactive, an agent provocateur. Well, I answered his questions. I don't think he liked the answer. I don't know how many in here is going to go research mind control and MK Ultra and the beast machines and all these things. There are things that you should be aware of. Most people are afraid of these things. Pitta is saying, how to resolve a toxic relationship? I don't have the answer to that because today we're talking about energy absorption. But what I will say is if you're in a toxic relationship, you're in agreement with it. So you like feeling bad. So if you want to change that, you got to change what you're resonating with. I think that's the best way to answer that one. Because I don't like to call things toxic relationships, but there certainly are. Maybe I should do a video on toxic relationships. I mean, I guess I could do. You need to further go down in the comments to understand. Okay, I'm going to look for capitals. I got bad temper due to my experiences. That wrong energy has disrupted my aura. But you had to resonate with that star power. So you didn't get the bad temper from those experiences. Those experiences triggered the anger that was already within you. So you have to understand where and why is the anger there? What is it stuck? Is it able to express? Is it expressing and spewing at people? Is it unexpressed because there's sadness and hurt there? I mean, you should go into that deeper star power, and that will help you understand your energy a little bit more. Okay, y'all. What are good books on shadow books, shadow work? Keeping the Love That You Find. by Hendricks. It's an old book. It's an old book, but it's a good one. It's a workbook. You have to be willing to do the work. But I also gave you how to identify your blind spots here. So do that exercise. That would be a great start. Identify your fears. That's another great start. Salvo, I pinned your comment because it was so beautiful. Salvo, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No, you don't ever have to apologize, Salvo. I thought your comment was perfect. Stormy says, you did answer my question, especially when you spoke about wanting to work with a specific person for your personal development. I asked the question before you brought up the experience. Thank you. Oh, good. I understand and know that there has to be an agreement. So I'm just thinking and asking of serendipity and God's timing. I would say that's cause and effect. Like the natural laws are always in effect whether you are aware of it or not. So you really want to know, how are you resonating? What are you resonating with? What needs to be addressed and cleared for you to resonate at higher levels of consciousness? Okay, this is going on so long. I'm so sorry. I just want to try and get... Yeah, this stream might not be for everybody. So if you don't like what I have to say, keep it moving. If you resonate with what I'm saying, great. Take what works for you and leave everything else behind. Two energies which are in conflict should move away from each other. Well, how do you resonate or resolve inner conflict? Just walking away? That's your inner conflict. That's what I think most people try to do, is walk away when they have inner conflict, and it doesn't work very well. I know zero, you know zero about emissions. Okay, Amrit. I haven't even started talking about EMFs. I didn't want to go down that road, that's why. But it is important because it does go into your field, and 5G is everywhere. Why? Why? Because of nanoparticles. Do a lot of people here want to talk about nanoparticles? I've always been interested in nanotechnology. I think my first awareness of nanotechnology was at like 12 years old. And I started reading books about, that's how I got into quantum field. Okay. Ben says, I just got to know about, oh, okay. P. Diddy, cruel world. There's a lot of sex trafficking going on in our world that doesn't make the news. Okay, I got through all of the comments. Okay, y'all. Thank you for, oh, I was reading your beautiful comment again, Salvo. Okay, so I gave you all really how energy absorption really takes place. It's going to happen only if you have vulnerabilities and weaknesses in your field. Oh, thank you, Mick, for your compliment. He's saying, Kiana, you're a cool chick. Very interesting way of doing things. Yeah, I have a different way. It's one of my gifts. Okay, so you want to shore up any weaknesses or vulnerabilities in your field. You want to know why you have, so you want to know what your fears are. That's just like skimming the surface. But then you want to know 5 deep, why is that a fear? Why? That's going to help you. Okay? And then, so if you're afraid of shadows, why? 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 You want to ask why? You want to get really deep. Do not stop on the surface. You deserve more depth. The other thing you want to do is identify your blind spots. Now, the trigger question really got y'all ramped up here, which is, am I willing to see and speak my truth with my family? That is just a question to gauge on a scale of 0 to 10. How in are you to seeing blind spots? If you're not a 10, as seeing the truth and speaking the truth, then you need to know that you're not 100% invested in seeing your blind spots. You got to know that about yourself. That's number 1. Number 2, write down what attachments you have. And number 3, write down what are the beliefs that you have that have you believing that that attachment is needed for you to be in alignment. And what you're going to find is there's going to be some incongruence there. Okay, so my name is Kiana Sage. I guide people to peace. I'm here every single day between 12 and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time talking about some different topic on energy psychology, the alignment of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. I do this because I feel compelled to be in alignment with the natural laws, and I like about speaking about the natural laws. Tomorrow I will be introducing another law so you guys can all become familiar about the natural laws. Every week I introduce a new one so you become more familiar, more aware, so you can be more conscious and more in alignment. If you're new here, hit the like button, and also feel free to share this video, and also put your notifications on because I don't come on at the same time every day. I want to say special thank you to Oliver and Peter for helping in the mods. You guys are awesome. It makes this chat more enjoyable. You see the collective consciousness in a way that is not comfortable. But, oh, Sniper, you're here. Where have you been? It's good to see you here. I didn't see you here earlier. Thank you so much for showing up. It's been a while. We missed you. Anyways, thank you so much for being here, you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Namaste.